Are you a thought leader? The term thought leader can be a divisive one. Some people think they are one, others might disagree. Some people proudly claim to be one, while others think it's only a term that others bestow on you. To answer the question, what is a thought leader, and are you a thought leader, I've asked 4 of my colleagues to give me their views on what they think about themselves. Are they thought leaders? It might just answer the question you've been asking yourself. Are you a thought leader? I'm Geoff McDonald, the Ideas Architect, and through Anywhere Experts, I help business experts become thought leaders and earn money from what they know from anywhere. And then make sure you stick around to the end, where I'll give you a nice, simple way for you to assess where you're at on your thought leadership journey.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Mercier. I'm a mindset and business coach. I work with talented female leaders, managers, business owners, and entrepreneurs, helping them understand the impact that their mindset has on their performance and their outcomes. I specialize in limiting mindsets, and particularly in the imposter syndrome, which I've been working with for about 13 years. I've written a book on the subject. I actually have done quite a bit of speaking on the subject. And I was part of a group called Thought Leaders many, many years ago. The group was actually all about helping people who had a unique idea or a clever idea, help them become commercially successful. And so I think everybody in that group considered themselves to be thought leaders. It was a title that I always felt a little bit uncomfortable with. And it wasn't until recently that I understood why. First of all, there are so many people around calling themselves thought leaders at the moment. And I think that's kind of diminished the impact of the title, if you like. But the two criteria that I've been told are important to be considered to be a thought leader. The first one is actually that you have a unique idea, a unique in terms of it's never been done before, or a unique take on an idea that's already out there in the market. So from that perspective, I guess I was a thought leader because imposter syndrome had not been taken into the business environment. And we hadn't heard much about that in Australia either. So that was a tick. But the second area was where I felt I tripped up when I heard it and I understood now why, was that you need to have social proof, if you like, an enormous number of people following you that suggests that it is something that is impacting other people. It's not just a little flame burning in the dark. It's actually something which is impacting a lot more people. And I didn't get that. I wasn't there. The market wasn't ready for me, or I wasn't ready to put the effort into the market at that point in time to build my profile further than I did already. So I guess I didn't fit on that criteria. So for me, I look at a lot of people who are calling themselves thought leaders, and I think, no, I don't think so. They're not fulfilling both those criteria. So for me, no, I'm not a thought leader. I'm definitely an expert in my area, though.
So I'm Lisa Carlin, and I have deep expertise around behavioral transformation. And I do this in my work, and I've always helped large companies and sometimes smaller companies with their behavioral change. But I always found it very hard to capture this into content and learnings for people, because when I start explaining what I do, it sounds obvious. So I never thought of myself as a thought leader. And then, Geoff, you helped me to take some of this knowledge out of my head and put it into articles. And then I just started to write. This was probably about 10 years ago. And I really felt like I was a thought leader then. And then I got distracted delivering a whole lot of work. And now I'm working in the EdTech talent management space with a lot of startup businesses and scale-ups. And as I work with them and I've pulled together a lot of my knowledge to be able to do this, I realize now that actually I am a thought leader and I can do it on my own for now. And I'm doing it. I'm sharing, and in fact, my writer's block is now gone. And I've done that through getting really clear on my purpose and my value add and the kind of work I want to do with these startup and scale up businesses in the EdTech space, in the learning space. And it really leverages the skills that I have really well around behavior and insight into large HR departments and how they procure and how people in organizations work, customers. and I can do it because I'm clear on what I want. And yes, I do think I am a thought leader, but I at times haven't. So it's an interesting question.
I work with leaders, mid-tier people, sometimes predominantly leaders, global leaders who have large responsibilities, who, as we all know, work in volatile, ever-changing times, and they need a number one skill, which is the capacity to lead themselves while they're leading other people. They need to trust that. They need to know of themselves, I'm not an autopilot here. I'm sufficiently skilled in checking in with myself as to what's really required here. And that keeps them as inspiring leaders, actually. Thought leader, you know, that's something I'd always thought of as being in the hands of other people to decide. In other words, I've never actually named myself that. So it's a very interesting question. And, you know, what is a thought leader for me? A thought leader is someone that gives me internal models and frameworks that I can easily, quickly pull up inside as guidance. And so actually, when I look across the span of my career, you know, 40 years plus, and I go and I contact people that I've worked with, coached, trained, facilitated their teams and over the years in different countries, they say to me, I still use da-da-da model. I still think of that framework when I'm in this situation. And therefore, I guess I have been and am a thought leader for others. I'm guessing so. And I know that there are people that I look to for guidance, and it's their frameworks and their, you know, their terminology they've given. You know, Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence, really useful framework he gave us for interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence. He extended the way we think about intelligence. Very useful.
Hello, so I'm Philippe Guichard. I'm an industrial designer. I work with serial entrepreneurs, and what I do is I help them move from an idea to a product, but more than that, to a business that can scale. So we help de-risk the hardware ventures for entrepreneurs. So actually, I have been called a thought leader. I'm not sure I would name myself a thought leader, but I've been called a thought leader because I take a position in a design industry. So there are two things that set me kind of apart into the thought leadership realm. One is I have a very specific methodology for launching and de-risking ventures, hardware ventures. So it's quite different from the traditional design process. The other thing that really differentiates me is the triple bottom line. So when I design a product and when I talk to my client, I have this vision that we can also benefit the people and the planet.
Now for my thoughts on this, and not like I've got the right answer, it's just the world according to Geoff. For me, a thought leader is anyone, literally anyone, who has ideas and that other people adopt and use and follow those ideas. For instance, in my previous video on thought leadership strategy, I offered a framework to help you create a hyper-focus for your business. And I had a number of people say to me, hey Geoff, love the idea, I'll put it to use in my business. Great. And by my definition, it kind of makes me a thought leader. But I don't kind of go around telling people I'm a thought leader. I do what I do, I create and share ideas, and if people love them, fantastic. Good for me, even better for them. However, there's clearly a big difference between my level of thought leadership and someone like Albert Einstein. His ideas tended to change the way we see the world, plus most people around the world would recognize him, or at least his name. This is a question of not only the scale of your ideas as to do they change the world, but also the level of following or the support or the buy-in to those ideas. To show this visually, I've created a simple line graph to let you determine where you fit as a thought leader. I've called it the thought leader line. On the vertical axis, we have thoughts. The higher up the axis, the bigger the impact of your ideas. For instance, Einstein would be at the top of this, and my ramblings in this video are much closer to the bottom. On the horizontal axis, we have leadership, or your level of influence and the breadth and depth of people that follow you and use your ideas. The further to the right on this axis, the more influence you have. For instance, in 2021, ex-wrestler and movie star Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, is the most popular person on the planet. He'd be on the right of this scale. And the much smaller audience watching this video would put this on the far left. It starts to get interesting when we draw a diagonal line between the two, the thought leader line. We can use this to start to plot our level of thought leadership in terms of both the quality and the depth of our ideas, plus the level of influence we have with those ideas and the people that use them. For instance, if we return to the 7 examples from our earlier video, What is Thought Leadership?, we can plot them on this graph. For example, Elizabeth Blackburn is a Nobel Prize winning scientist, which would put her high on the impact of her ideas. But because her work is so technical, she probably would score low on her level of social impact. She might be a hero in the scientific world, but is relatively unknown outside of this. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the climate change activist Greta Thunberg. While her ideas are probably not going to win her a Nobel Prize for Science, the level of international support she has achieved might win her the Nobel Peace Prize instead. In the middle, we have someone like Brené Brown, who has both strong ideas and a strong following. And finally, down in the bottom left corner is someone like me, who has some decent ideas and a small audience. This shows there are a lot of different ways to be a thought leader, and not all of them require you to be on the world stage. The real value here is, where would you put yourself on this graph? And also, where would you like to be on this graph? Here I've loosely put 3 bands across the graph to suggest you can have a local, national, or international impact. This shows one way to show the scale of your thought leadership. But I think this one might be better for more of us. It shows your scale of influence based on your colleagues, your clients, and your industry. The first step here is clearly to show up as a thought leader for your colleagues. The other idea here is whether you would put yourself above the line, below the line, or on the line. If you were above the line, it would mean your ideas are more influential than the number of people who use them. If you were below the line, it would mean you had greater social impact than your ideas. And if you were on the line, you could say you have both, an audience that is equivalent to your level of ideas. And I don't think there's any right answer here. I think the beauty of this little graph is that it shows you the wide range of possible ways to be a thought leader in terms of the scale of your ideas and the scale of your influence to other people. Plus, you can have that mix. You can be stronger in ideas, stronger in social impact, or maybe a bit of both. Let me know in the comments below where you would put yourself on the thought leadership line. That's it. That's my take on the question, are you a thought leader? And a big thanks to our special guests, Suzanne, Lisa, Taruni, and Philippe. Their contact details are in the description if you want to find out more about them. If you liked this video, hit that like button down below to let me know. It will help me know what content to create in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.